Hey everyone, and welcome back to another great episode on the Hope and Renewal podcast. This is where faith meets real life and hard truth is held with compassion. Again, this is your favorite host, Antonio Banks. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope and pray that this message speaks to your heart. And if it does, that you do not keep it to yourself, but share it with somebody else. So before we get started, I want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you to every listener, every supporter, and every person who's taken time to tune in. I pray for this podcast every day, and your support means more than words can express. Now, something new has came up on the Hope and Renewal podcast. TikTok has added a subscription button to my page. So if this podcast has blessed you, inspired you, or made you think differently, I'd love for you to consider subscribing. See, your support helps keep this message going and growing. Now, what the subscription means, it means we've dedicated our Sundays to you, our supporters, our family, the ones who keep this podcast alive. And what we're calling it is Rest and Reset Sunday. Because just like our body needs rest, our souls do too. And it's a day to pause, breathe, reflect, and get spiritual recharge before the week ahead. So on a subscription Sunday, I'll be sharing exclusive reflections. I will send people who have emails questions of the episode for them to either take notes or don't take notes. It's behind the scenes moments and special messages, all designed to help you rest your mind and reset your spirit. It's my way of saying thank you for believing in this journey and walking with me. See, when you subscribe, you're not just supporting a podcast, you're joining a community that believes in faith, truth, and renewal. And together, we're learning to rest in God's promises and reset for His purpose. So, if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on TikTok and be a part of something that's about more than content. It's about connection. So let's dive in. This episode is called Handle with Care. You know, the things we said in the 90s better never come out of your mouth today. Because today, you either end up canceled, in jail, or worse. See, I remember when people used to have what we called a roast. It's a roasting contest. And no, I'm not talking about the roast your mama put in a slow cooker that took 13 hours to make. A roast was when two people stood face to face, trading jokes, trying to outdo each other. And it was with the funniest insults. It wasn't about hate, it was about humor. You had to be quick, clever, and able to take what you dished out. See, back then, words didn't cut as deeply because we didn't let them. We knew the difference between being roasted and being disrespected. It was all fun. And when it was all over, everybody shook hands and moved on. But now today, you can't say half a sentence without somebody twisting it into something it was never meant to be. See, what used to be a joke is now labeled offensive. What used to be fun is now cancel-worthy. See, somewhere along the way, we stopped laughing and started labeling. And that's the sad part, because of those old school roasting sessions, they weren't just jokes. They were lessons in resilience. They taught us how to take a hit and keep moving. And today, People walk around guarded, afraid to speak, afraid to joke, afraid just to be real. And understand this doesn't mean being genuine is being reckless. It means being honest without losing compassion. And see, that's something we've got to find again. Let me take it back for a second. See, I remember getting in trouble at home, which seemed to happen a lot. And now, if it wasn't a belt, it was a shoe or whatever she could grab to throw. It was that good old switch. If you don't know what a switch is, it's a twig. It's like a tree branch. And don't try to be slick and pick a big one thinking it'll be over faster. That thing was sliced in the air like a jet. Now, you better not even raise your hand or your voice at your kids. What used to be called discipline is now labeled abuse. What used to be correction is now called trauma. See, and parents walking on eggshells these days, scared to correct their kids for fear of damaging them. Listen, discipline, when done in love, isn't damaging, it's developing. And children still need structure. They still need correction. And they also need understanding. And raising your voice doesn't make you a bad parent. It's what you do after that is what matters. See, correction without love breaks the spirit. Love without correction raises confusion. And somewhere along the way, we blurred that line. See, growing up, going outside wasn't optional. It was actually mandatory. We didn't need permission or equipment. We just needed a ball, a patch of grass, and enough sunlight to call the next game. I remember when we played backyard football or street basketball, yelling car every 5 minutes. That was childhood. We came home with scraped knees, grass stains, and smiles that said, I lived today. Now you can't even pay kids to go outside. They don't know the joy of building fun from nothing. No apps, no Wi-Fi, no controllers. Can you just imagine that friendship? See, we lived in a time when laughter echoed through the neighborhood, and the only notification we had were our parents calling us in before dark. Sometimes I miss those days, not because they were perfect, but because they were real. It was no filters, no pressure. It was just real life. And now let's talk about field day. If you grew up in the 90s, you know what I'm talking about. The relay race, the sack race, even the tug of war. That was the day you had to show out. It wasn't just about fun, it was about pride. Even if your shoe flew off mid-race or you tripped face first into the grass, you got back up. Why? Because losing wasn't an option when your whole class was counting on you. Now many schools give every child a ribbon. The goal is good. They want everyone to feel included. And when you remove competition, you remove motivation. When you take the chance to lose, you take away the chance to grow. And field day taught us the importance of preparation, practice, and perseverance. It wasn't about winning, it was about giving your best. And see, participation builds inclusion. Perseverance builds character. And that's what's missing today. And now let's talk about offense. The fact that statues, signs, and even a simple hi offends people says a lot about the world we live in, right? See, we reached a point where almost anything can turn into a debate. A statue becomes a statement. A sign becomes an argument. A greeting becomes an intrusion. See, we traded understanding for outrage. We used to be able to disagree and still shake hands. Now, people cancel each other faster than they listen. And the truth is, because this is what we do on the Hope and Renewal podcast, when everything is offensive, nothing means anything anymore. And now let's talk about the act like this is something new, because it's not. See, this same kind of sensitivity existed even in Jesus' time. The very one who came to heal, restore, and save was constantly misunderstood and criticized. And though he spoke the truth and they called him a liar, he still showed love and they still called him a threat. Even when he performed miracles, people still found fault. See, the thing is, Jesus didn't soften his words to keep followers. He spoke truth, knowing some would walk away. And in John chapter 6, verse 60, it says this: on hearing it, many of his disciples said, "This is a hard teaching. Who can accept it?" And in verse 66 says this: from this time, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. Jesus didn't chase them down. He didn't apologize for being honest. He stood firm in truth, because truth, even when uncomfortable, sets people free. And in Acts chapter 7, Stephen preached that same truth, and the crowd couldn't handle it. Instead of listening, they covered their ears, shouted, and stoned him to death. Acts chapter 7, verse 57 says this: at this, they covered their ears, and yelling at the top of their voices, they all rushed at him. That's how fragile people were. They literally couldn't bear to hear the truth. Now, fast forward to today. Turn on the news. We're watching the same thing happen in real time. People are losing their jobs, relationships, and even lives because someone couldn't handle honesty. This world has become so fragile that honesty feels like hate, and correction feels like an attack. Now, if we stop speaking truth because people can't handle it, then we stop being the light we're called to be. And Jesus never avoided the truth to protect feelings. He spoke it with purpose. And yes, it offended people. It divided crowds. It even led to his death. But it also led to our salvation. And I want to close with this. So while the world says, handle people with care, God says, handle truth with courage. Because one word spoken in love can save a soul, and one silence out of fear can cost one. So I want to leave you with this question: are you more worried about being liked or being right with God? Because the world might cancel you for speaking the truth, but heaven will celebrate you for standing on it. I want to thank you for tuning in to this week's episode on the Hope and Renewal podcast. If today's message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs encouragement. And don't forget, you can now subscribe on TikTok to help support the mission and keep this message alive. Thank you.